Asante Waziri. Mheshimiwa Naibu Rais, mawaziri, mabalozi, viongozi, marafiki, hamjambo. There's both symbolic and material importance to what we're marking here today, Your Excellency. This deep hunger crisis over the last 3 years in Kenya comes at the intersection of global forces that are very much beyond Kenya's control. Its deepest driver, as we all know, is the climate emergency. Kenya is at the mercy of mutating meteorology in the Indian Ocean, triggering the most intense and enduring drought since records began. But that already disastrous situation has been rendered catastrophic by the global shockwaves resulting from the war in Ukraine, disrupting global supply chains and significantly adding to the prices faced by the world's poorest. So it's a gloomy picture, but today we have 3 points of light to celebrate in our collective fight to support the most vulnerable Kenyans. In the first of these, when he signed the Black Sea Grain Initiative last year in Istanbul, Turkey, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described the resumption of Ukrainian grain exports via the Black Sea amidst the ongoing war as, and I quote, a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needs it. This UN and global plan, which also links to efforts to ensure that Russian food and fertilizer reach global markets, this plan supports the stabilization of spiraling food prices worldwide and is helping stave off famine affecting record millions of people globally. Today's shipment under the Black Sea Grain Initiative has been facilitated by generous contributions from many of the countries represented here today: United Kingdom, Norway, Belgium, Italy, Netherlands, Switzerland, Slovenia, Czech Republic, and others. And I want to say a big asanteni. It will provide enough food to support more than 500,000 refugees for 4 months and 3 weeks, and 265, more than 250,000 drought-affected Kenyans for a further 2 months. Second point of light. It gives me enormous pleasure, Your Excellency, to announce today that the United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund, or the CERF as we call it for short, has made yet again an additional allocation, this time of another 8 million United States dollars, from its underfunded emergencies window to the 2023 Kenya Drought Flash Appeal. This much-needed support will go to strengthen the actions of national and local NGOs who stand on the front lines of the Kenyan emergency response. And I think you all know that the CERF, this Central Emergency Response Fund, is a global facility that is supported again by many of those present here today: Belgium, Czechia, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, the UK, the United States, and more than 50 others around the world, ranging from the most small, Monaco and Singapore, to some of the very biggest, such as China and the Russian Federation. So our deep thanks go to all those who continue to contribute to this CERF. It's a vital multilateral emergency instrument in a world that is facing deep polarization against the highest levels of humanitarian need globally that we've ever seen. And finally, Your Excellency, the third point of light, and at by far the greatest scale, we're also here today to recognize the signal contribution of the United States government to the people of Kenya and to the Kenyan government in this drought response. Just today, WFP, the World Food Programme, is processing through the port some 16,000 metric tons of sorghum generously contributed by the United States government through USAID. And that alone is enough to feed more than 500,000 Kenyans for over 4 months. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Since the declaration of the drought emergency in 2021, the United States government has remained by far the most generous and the most consistent partner to the Kenyan drought response. It's just after St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, we would say that they are the biggest by a country mile, is what we would say in Ireland. Contributions just through the World Food Programme, and they're not, of course, alone, just through WFP already amounted to $277 million in funding and another $60 million in food commodities over just the past year. In short, the United States is providing about 80% of all humanitarian assistance going to the drought-ravaged parts of Kenya. And America's most recent contribution of an additional $126 million in food assistance to the drought response, announced in February, will help meet the urgent needs for approximately 1.3 million people across Kenya. So I hope you'll forgive me, Mheshimiwa Naibu Rais, if I address Ambassador Whitman directly. Even as we recognize today the efforts of so many partners, I really want nonetheless to take this opportunity to send a particular and heartfelt vote of thanks through you from United Nations Kenya, and I'm sure from the Kenyan government, to the United States government and people for this enormous solidarity. And let me use this also as an occasion to appeal to all partners, as His Excellency the President has done, to dig deeply. This drought continues to bite very hard, and Kenya remains a hair's breadth away from famine. We've marked some very significant successes today, but we must all do much, much more if we're to secure the lives and livelihoods of Kenyans hit by this mother of all droughts. Asanteni sana.